Sophie Swy. With over 1 million followers across various content platforms, there's not much Sophie Swy can do without the public finding out about it. Such was the case when she was arrested on suspicion of driving drunk in Nashville in 2021. The 26-year-old was nabbed after her boyfriend, Johnny Austin Justice, allegedly jumped out of her car window while the vehicle was in motion and landed on his head. The impact on the pavement left him with a brain injury that saw him sent to the trauma unit of a nearby hospital. Justice was reportedly upset about a photo shoot when the incident occurred. Swy allegedly told police that she had consumed 1 Moscow Mule cocktail and 1 beer that night. She performed poorly on a field sobriety test and was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. It was her second DUI following a previous conviction in North Carolina 3 years earlier. So that may be one of the reasons why she was sentenced to nearly a year in jail, rather than being spared from any time behind bars. Number 20. Amanda Caraval. Michigan-based influencer and abortion activist Amanda Caraval rose to internet fame on TikTok after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. But it wasn't until late 2022 that police body cam footage from an arrest the previous year came back to haunt her. In July of 2021, she was caught sleeping in her vehicle at a red light in Livonia, Michigan. Video captured by the police showed Caraval drifting in and out of consciousness while officers yelled at her to turn her vehicle off and unlock the door. It took a while, but she eventually woke up and complied with their demands. The officers attempted to conduct a field sobriety check, but Caraval was too incoherent to complete the exercises. When asked about her alcohol consumption, she said, "I had 3 o'clock to drink tonight." She could also be heard making belligerent comments toward the cops and repeatedly demanding a lawyer as she was arrested and placed in a police vehicle. During the ride to the hospital for a blood sample, she vomited in the back seat, only adding to the officers' suspicions that she had been driving drunk. Authorities charged Caraval with operating a vehicle while intoxicated and driving while visually impaired. She pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 6 months of community service. Shortly after the video's release, the up-and-coming influencer's status plummeted basically overnight. Caraval deleted all her social media accounts and has remained almost entirely out of the spotlight ever since, leaving the internet to wonder where she is and what she's up to these days. Number 19. Danny Lee. 28-year-old singer-turned-influencer Danielle Lee Curiel, aka Danny Lee, has a baby with rapper DaBaby and is the daughter of Vicky Curiel, the CEO of International Hub Records. But she turned the public's attention away from her talent and toward more scandalous aspects of her life in May of 2023, when she was involved in a car wreck near Miami International Airport. According to police, she was speeding and swerving during the early morning hours. She allegedly struck someone on a moped and attempted to flee the scene. The victim suffered multiple serious but non-life-threatening injuries, including a spinal fracture and a kidney laceration. In the meantime, Danny Lee's blood alcohol content tested at nearly twice the legal limit. She was booked on felony charges of leaving the scene of a crash involving serious bodily injury, driving while under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and injuring a person while driving under the influence. In early 2024, the singer was sentenced to 5 years of probation. It's unclear whether she has any specific rules she has to follow during her supervision period, or what those rules are. Number 18. Brother 3000. A popular Chinese influencer known as Brother 3000 was known for drinking heavily during his live streams, and he was even banned from the social media app Douyin for his alcohol consumption. He got around this by simply creating new accounts and continuing to stream content that violated the platform's no alcohol policy. Known by the last name Wang, the 34-year-old influencer seemed to have no problem rebuilding his following each time he made a new account. He had amassed over 44,000 followers on his most recent account when he live-streamed a video of himself drinking 7 bottles of a strong spirit called Baijiu. And for those of you who don't know, Baijiu contains up to 60% alcohol and is also known as Chinese firewater. During the video, which was broadcast in May of 2023, Wang competed with other influencers to earn the highest number of gifts from fans. After losing 3 out of 4 rounds, he drank the Baijiu as punishment. Wang ended the streaming session shortly after midnight and was found dead in his apartment 12 hours later. The tragedy sparked an increasing number of outcries for better regulation of outrageous social media behavior in China. People are becoming especially concerned because the influencers who are taking part in dangerous and destructive behaviors often flaunt a luxurious lifestyle, and this lifestyle only adds to the allure that draws impressionable teens to mimic what's trending on social media. Number 17. Janghuan Hang. Less than a month after Brother 3000 drank himself to death on a live stream in May of 2023, another Chinese influencer succumbed to the same fate. 27-year-old Janghuan Hang, known as Brother Huang, participated in the same viral drinking challenge that killed Brother 3000. He also drank the same sorghum-based spirit, baijiu, or Chinese firewater. In the video, Huang could be seen lighting an alcohol-soaked paper towel on fire to prove that it was real booze. His wife Leah later told the Straits Times that Huang was trying to earn money to pay off a large amount of debt he accrued before his wedding. The influencer also appeared to have somewhat of a preoccupation with money. This was evident due to the posters in his bedroom featuring sayings like "money is more important than life" and "life is not all about money, but you will need money to live the life you want." Footage also showed a large stack of empty booze bottles in his room. Huang was a good friend of Brother 3000 and had even attended the influencer's funeral. At the service, Huang was reportedly heard saying that he was going to drink less alcohol, but unfortunately his friend's death wasn't enough to discourage him from drinking dangerously. The deaths of Huang and Wang prompted outcries in China for stricter regulations surrounding social media use. These concerns came amid rising demands in the US for a ban against TikTok. There have also been heightened social media rules as of late due to the number of teens and young people who have been hurting themselves and dying due to their participation in dangerous challenges. Number 16. Melissa Seals. In April of 2023, an aspiring Instagram model from Florida named Melissa Seals tried to flirt her way out of a traffic stop in Tampa. The 21-year-old had allegedly run a red light while shirtless and was suspected of driving drunk. In addition to reportedly showing signs of intoxication, she appeared to have marijuana flakes sprinkled on her clothing. Seals turned the charm on and acted giggly, but the officer she spoke with was unreceptive to the cutesy display. She performed poorly on a sobriety test, and police found marijuana and a pipe during a search of her car. The young woman allegedly refused to take a breathalyzer and threatened to sue the officer for violating her rights while boasting about her family's wealth during the ride to jail. Her many moods of the morning were captured on police camera footage while the arresting officer remained impressively calm, allowing Seals' words to go in one ear and out the other. Seals posted bail a few hours later and was released from her jail cell. In an Instagram post a few months after her arrest, she shared a collection of selfies accompanied by the caption, "Law-abiding citizen," in an apparent taunt toward law enforcement. For now, the outcome of the case is unclear. Number 15. Britney Rena. 26-year-old fitness influencer Britney Rena is known for oversharing the details of her personal life while somehow still being cryptic about her dating life. Her status as the ex-girlfriend of Charlotte Hornets power forward PJ Washington and as the mother of his son also helped advance her influencer status. Rena caught attention for something entirely different in August of 2023 when she displayed strange behavior on a podcast called The Danza Project. Most notably, she seemed intoxicated as she spoke with hosts Chris Novocaine, Danza, and Charleston White. She repeatedly told everyone to shut the F up when a real B is talking and got into a heated argument with former heavyweight champion Shannon Briggs. The podcast conversation took an uneasy turn when Rena was talking about the excruciating pain she endured during childbirth. Some of the men on set began laughing, causing Rena to believe they were laughing at her commentary about having a baby. She chucked a water bottle which struck Briggs, then apologized and said that she meant to hit someone else with it. Briggs was nevertheless unamused, telling Rena that what she did wasn't cool. He then called her a drunk bee. The situation spiraled out of control from there, with Rena yelling at Briggs to shut up and challenging him to hit her. In an attempt to stop the situation from getting even more wild, the host suggested resetting the room and giving everyone a chance to calm down. At another point during the podcast, Rena climbed into Charleston White's lap and gave him an impromptu lap dance. Needless to say, her behavior turned heads that day, and not necessarily for good reasons. Number 14. CorystruTalbert. Mom influencer CorystruTalbert made a name for herself by broadcasting videos about her children and her experiences as a parent on the Trav and Core YouTube channel. She also became known for an unflattering incident in early 2023 when she was arrested for multiple crimes in Pebble Beach, California. The 37-year-old was celebrating her birthday at a bar when she allegedly became belligerent, resulting in security asking her to leave and go back to her hotel room. But she wouldn't, and eventually the police were called. According to police, CorystruTalbert refused to return to her room, even after they warned her that she'd be arrested if she failed to follow their orders. She was also accused of kicking a responding officer. CorystruTalbert was hit with a laundry list of charges, including trespassing, public intoxication, resisting arrest, and battery on an officer. Shortly after her arrest, a source close to her denied the allegations in an interview with TMZ. The anonymous individual claimed that CorystruTalbert didn't actually resist arrest and accused the police of slamming her onto the ground in handcuffs while having her Miranda rights read to her. Furthermore, she claimed to have suffered injuries to her shoulder, arm, and face at the hands of law enforcement. CorystruTalbert's attorney stood by her claim that the police were overly aggressive toward her. Either way, the incident was a complete contrast to the wholesome, family-friendly image that she and her husband, Travis Talbot, put out on their YouTube channel. Number 13. PriiaSahi. Better known by her social media moniker, Queen Bee, PriiaSahi caught the attention of police officers in the English town of Swindon in 2023. The 29-year-old was sitting in her Audi outside an Asda supermarket when something about her behavior indicated that she was intoxicated. She began broadcasting live to her 100,000 followers as the officers arrested her and could be heard insisting that her keys weren't in the car's ignition. Sahi was charged with being drunk while in charge of a motor vehicle. While in handcuffs, she claimed that she was allowed to drink while parked. But that apparently wasn't the case, since she got arrested for doing just that. The officers noticed numerous alcohol bottles in Sahi's car, which seemed to confirm their suspicions about her alcohol use. The influencer remained argumentative toward police, including a Polish community support officer named PC Kozak, whom she told to learn English and hurled other hurtful remarks at. Her commentary earned her an additional charge for a racially aggravated public offense. It was Sahi's second time being charged with a racially aggravated crime, with the previous case being an assault that occurred in 2015. In the more recent case, she pleaded guilty to the racial abuse charge and to the drinking-related charge. As a result, she was fined and received 2 driving disqualifications. In a victim impact statement, PC Kozak described feeling dehumanized. He said that he's regularly subjected to derogatory remarks, even though he had to pass all the same tests as his British-born colleagues. The tests he was required to take included proving that he knew English well enough to do his job. Apologizing through her lawyer, Sahi claimed that she had been going through a traumatic time and that she spiraled out of control in the moments leading up to her arrest. She said that she felt embarrassed and that she hoped her apology would be passed on to Kozak. Number 12. Aiyang. 18-year-old Aiyang is a TikToker turned OnlyFans content creator who quit college due to the amount of money she was making as an adult model. In 2023, she had her heart broken by her much older boyfriend, 44-year-old nightclub king Julian Tobias, who dumped her after just 2 months of dating. Aiyang was clearly having a bad year. It got even worse several months after the breakup when she crashed her Mercedes-Benz in the exclusive Sydney suburb of Point Piper. According to authorities, she was driving drunk when she struck another vehicle at around 9 p.m. The impact caused an extremely loud noise that drew nearby residents outside and prompted someone to call the police. A breathalyzer indicated that Aiyang's blood alcohol content was more than 4 times Australia's legal limit of 0.05. She was then arrested for drunk driving. In court, the young woman's defense attorney, Michael Bowe, claimed that Aiyang had spent the day drowning herself in booze due to her breakup with Tobias. Bowe described how his client spiraled out of control and plunged into a depression following the split. Aiyang pleaded guilty to the charge and took a break from drinking while she sorted out her legal problems. She was sentenced to 2 years of community supervision and was ordered to compensate the costs of damage to 2 vehicles. The judge revoked Aiyang's license for 9 months with the requirement to use an interlocking device on her car for 2 years after that. And before sending the troubled influencer on her way, the judge also issued a stern caution that if history repeated itself, she would automatically go to jail. Number 11. Brisa Dominguez Garcia. During the early morning hours one day in July of 2017, a night manager at a hotel in Clearwater, Florida called 911 for help kicking out a trespasser. The employee had ordered 25-year-old Brisa Dominguez Garcia to leave the hotel because she was creating a disturbance. He further claimed that the young woman snuck into a guest's room after pretending that she was going to leave. According to a police report, officers arrived to find the young woman naked. One of the cops handed Dominguez Garcia a towel to cover herself with, and she allegedly whipped him in the face with it. She was also accused of kicking 3 officers during her arrest and attempting to bite and spit on the cops as they took her into custody. The officer who wrote the report noted that the suspect appeared to be under the influence of alcohol. Dominguez Garcia was charged with trespassing, resisting an officer with violence, and battery on a law enforcement officer. She bailed out of jail for $10,250 and was potentially facing serious consequences. But her sultry mugshot also attracted thousands of new social media followers, helping to boost her success as an Instagram model. While the outcome of her criminal case is unclear, she remains active on social media with a fan base of nearly 700,000 and counting. Number 10. Bobby Kataria. India-based bodybuilder and lifestyle influencer Bobby Kataria is no stranger to controversy. In 2022, he was seen smoking a cigarette on a SpiceJet flight in a video he posted on Instagram. He wasn't immediately arrested, but aviation authorities ordered an investigation as soon as they found out about the video. Not long after that, Kataria filmed himself sitting on a chair and drinking alcohol in the middle of a road in the city of Dehradun. According to police, he and a friend had driven a motorcycle recklessly while drunk on the day the video was recorded. In a Facebook post responding to the allegations, Kataria claimed that he filmed the clip for entertainment and that he didn't remember where he recorded it. By the time police issued a warrant for Kataria's arrest for drinking in public during the fall of 2022, he had turned himself over to law enforcement in Delhi for the smoking incident. Authorities in Dehradun hoped to have him extradited there, but Kataria was granted bail in Delhi and failed to turn himself in for the drinking case. He eventually surrendered and was once again granted bail. 2 months later, Kataria was back in custody on charges of extorting and abusing a woman on social media. He has remained mostly out of the media spotlight since then, leaving it unclear whether he has sorted out his legal issues. Number 9. Katie Summers. Once weighing in at 215 pounds, 28-year-old mother of 2 and fitness influencer Katie Summers became internet famous during her journey to lose nearly 100 pounds after the birth of her second child. She garnered a following of over 150,000 fans and supporters who praised her successful transformation and sought her advice as a fitness and wellness coach. But Katie's status as an influencer was interrupted in 2018 when she allegedly committed a fatal hit-and-run while drunk in Kennewick, Washington. The victim, 31-year-old Lionel Berrueta, was riding his moped through a green light when Katie struck him with her Toyota Tundra while driving home from dinner with her boyfriend. According to court documents, Katie stopped for a few minutes and got out of her truck, but witnesses told police that she didn't identify herself, offer help, or call 911 before getting back into her truck and fleeing the scene. Berrueta succumbed to his injuries, despite bystanders' best attempts to revive him through CPR. Members of law enforcement located Katie outside a grocery store less than a block from the crime scene. She admitted to being the driver and smelled of alcohol and burnt marijuana, according to police. A blood draw later confirmed that she had consumed both alcohol and marijuana prior to the crash. Following her arrest, Katie deleted her Instagram page and focused on her legal problems, which dragged their way through the court system for nearly 4 years before a conclusion was finally reached. She was originally charged with vehicular homicide, driving under the influence and disregard for the safety of others, but she ultimately pleaded guilty to charges not relating to her alcohol consumption. In May of 2022, she was sentenced to 2 years and 2 months in prison, putting her career as an influencer on hold indefinitely. Should Katie choose to return to the spotlight, hopefully she'll redeem herself by using her position to advocate against drunk driving. Number 8. Leah Marie Johnson. American singer and actress Leah Marie Johnson became a famous YouTuber as a teen and was also featured on the popular web series Kids React. Her fans became extremely concerned for her well-being in early 2020 when she appeared to be intoxicated during a live stream. At the time, Johnson was 23 years old, so she had every right to be drunk if she wanted to be. But that's not what people were primarily worried about. During the video, an older man was seen wrapping his arms around Johnson and kissing her. Several people claimed to recognize him as Leah's 67-year-old music producer, Stephen Weatherby, who had started working with her when she was much younger. In addition to the physical affection the man showed, he could be heard repeatedly asking Johnson if she was on Instagram and warning her to stay off the app because it could damage her career. Later that night, the same man could be heard once again asking Johnson if she was on Instagram before taking her phone away and ending the live stream. Rumors began to circulate wildly, speculating that Weatherby had groomed and possibly abused Johnson. Shortly after the controversial videos were broadcasted, Weatherby deleted all his social media accounts. Johnson took a 2-year hiatus from YouTube. She finally reappeared in early 2023, explaining in a video that she had in fact been suffering from abuse and that she had been taken advantage of. Johnson accused Weatherby of pulling her away from a sober lifestyle and claimed that she had gone on Instagram Live as a cry for help at a time when she felt trapped. Later that year, Johnson wed her longtime partner, Charlie Hudson. They are reportedly happily married and living in London, much to the relief of those who saw the disturbing live streams and became even more concerned throughout her prolonged silence. Number 7. Patricia Hajia. Known to her followers as Torpedo Trish, 28-year-old Instagram model Patricia Hajia was 3 times over Australia's legal limit for alcohol when she crashed her Jeep drunk outside Sydney in October of 2021. She collided with 3 parked cars in the city of Maroubra before flipping the vehicle. She was then arrested for drunk driving. Just hours earlier, she had posted a photo of herself holding a glass of champagne at a friend's wedding. Hajia claimed to be extremely remorseful for her actions. She was fortunate enough to avoid jail time and was sentenced to 400 hours of community service instead. To many, this would sound like a major break compared to completely losing one's freedom, but Hajia believed the punishment was offensively excessive. She appeared in court with her lawyer and asked the judge to reduce her sentence, saying that she felt out of place on her first day of community service. The sultry blonde also described feeling humiliated by the consequences of her poor decisions and promised to never repeat her past actions. In response to the request, the judge acknowledged that Hajia had paid out hundreds of thousands of dollars in compensation and that she had endured an embarrassing media onslaught following her crime. But this didn't take away from the fact that Hajia's reckless behavior could have seriously injured or killed someone. After considering these factors, the judge dropped her required service hours from 400 to 250. Number 6. Madison Lroy. Many reality TV stars and even real-life celebrities use social media to further their popularity, and the internet can be a great tool to boost one's following when done correctly. But it can also harm someone's reputation in ways that are difficult to recover from. Southern Charm star Madison Lroy learned the lesson the hard way when she went live on Instagram more than 16 times in one night while partying at home with a friend. On what was most likely a typical Sunday evening for everyone watching the broadcasts, the women were seen dancing and singing along with Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift's songs. But the most regrettable moment came when Lroy repeatedly flashed her bare chest to the camera. The following morning, she said that she wasn't exactly thrilled with how she acted. In fact, Lroy admitted to feeling embarrassed, but she also refused to apologize, noting that it wasn't the first time most people who use the internet have seen a woman's bare chest. In Lroy's own words, "Give me a break, y'all. I got drunk. I got sloppy. Forget about it. Why are you so worried?" And in all fairness, she had a good point. Lroy also mentioned how it was her Instagram page and she could do what she wanted. But she also wrote "never drinking again" in a comment beneath footage of the live streams that was reposted by the account Best of Bravo. Number 5. Ernest Aosta. In what could perhaps be best described as a nauseating and dangerous display of stupidity, YouTuber Ernest Aosta made news headlines in 2016 after he chugged 2 liters of Jack Daniel's bourbon in under a minute. The tattooed influencer was already well known for completing crazy challenges and dares from other YouTubers, but this one topped them all. In the video, Aosta could be seen downing the liquor on his knees while his partner held a bottle over his mouth. He visibly struggled to drink the entire bottle. After all, who wouldn't? And he clearly wasn't okay after he finished. His girlfriend appeared to think the situation was funny, but as other examples on today's list show, drinking a potentially deadly amount of alcohol in a short period of time is no laughing matter. Aosta collapsed onto the floor, but to the surprise of his viewers, he wasn't done yet. He ended his foolish overindulgence with a shot of Fireball before collapsing again, and then made his way to the toilet, where he vomited up whiskey. It was likely the best possible thing for him to get the booze out of his system as quickly as possible, but he could have avoided the discomfort he endured altogether by simply not partaking in something that was guaranteed to make him sick. Number 4. Daniel Joseph Silva. Australian YouTuber Corey Labarrie lost his life in an unspeakable tragedy on a Sunday night in 2020 after celebrating his 25th birthday. He was riding as a passenger in a McLaren 600 LT. The car was being driven by 27-year-old celebrity tattoo artist Daniel Joseph Silva, who previously starred on the reality TV show Ink Master. At the time, Labarrie boasted 330,000 followers and counting on YouTube and had an equally impressive Instagram fanbase. He regularly posted videos about what his daily life was like while living in Los Angeles with 3 other content creators. Silva had started his own YouTube channel featuring his tattoo designs after placing 7th on Season 10 of Ink Masters and had also achieved influencer status. According to police, Silva's McLaren was traveling at a high rate of speed shortly before 10 p.m. when the driver lost control and struck a stop sign and a tree in the Los Angeles Valley. Silva allegedly tried to leave the scene on foot but was stopped by civilians who rushed over to render aid. Emergency responders took Silva and Labarrie to the hospital, where Labarrie was pronounced dead from his injuries. The 2 men had reportedly been seen drinking at a party earlier that night. After receiving treatment for his injuries, Silva was booked into custody on a murder charge in connection with Labarrie's death. He pleaded not guilty to the charge. Meanwhile, he was also named as a defendant in a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Labarrie's family. Just 2 months after his arrest, Silva pleaded no contest to a reduced gross vehicular manslaughter charge. He was sentenced to a year in prison, 5 years of probation, and 50 hours of community service. But he was released from custody just months later. In a YouTube video addressing the rumors surrounding the accident, Silva denied trying to flee the scene of the crash, but also claimed to have no memory of what happened after the collision. Number 3. Fatima AlMman. During the early morning hours one day in August of 2023, Kuwaiti architect turned fashion influencer Fatima AlMman allegedly blew through a red light and crashed into a car carrying 4 occupants. All 4 victims were taken to the hospital, where 2 of them died from their injuries. AlMman was arrested at the scene and was later charged with 10 crimes, including manslaughter, accidental injury, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, passing a red light, speeding, reckless driving, and more. Almost immediately after the crash, the 30-year-old disabled all comments on her Instagram. Needless to say, her more than 2 million followers won't be hearing from her for a while. Several months after the accident, AlMman was convicted of manslaughter, speeding, running a red light, and other charges. She's currently serving a 3-year prison sentence. According to news reports, a toxicology test proved that she was not under the influence at the time of the crash, so the charge was dropped accordingly. Number 2. James Charles. In celebration of his 21st birthday in May of 2020, beauty YouTuber James Charles got drunk on camera for the first time ever. He demonstrated a cotton candy-themed eyeshadow look, which was based on his recently released tie-dye line of merchandise, in between sips of Don Julio 1942 tequila. During the video, Charles cautioned his viewers not to drink underage or in excess. He finished the tutorial without acting too drunk, but the video showed his friends carrying him to bed. Charles later confessed that he blacked out to the point where he couldn't remember filming the footage. Following the experience, he insisted that his first drunk makeup tutorial would also be his last. Charles claimed that it was his first time drinking alcohol aside from a sip of beer here and there, which could easily explain why he got blackout drunk. One can only imagine what he felt like the next morning, which likely helped to discourage him from excessive drinking in the future. And now for number 1. But if you want to hear more bizarre and crazy stories, stay tuned after the video for some more content. Number 1. Maria Fernanda Robles. A nighttime swim ended in tragedy for Mexican influencer Maria Fernanda Robles in August of 2023 when she disappeared while taking a dip with friends. Robles was the stepdaughter of popular musician Luis Angel El Flaco, but she was a celebrity in her own right, with a fan base of 25,000 and counting. Shortly before 5 a.m., the 21-year-old entered the sea off Cerritos Beach in Mazatlan with at least 2 friends while under the influence of alcohol. Both Maria and one of her friends got caught in the waves, but the friend was lucky enough to be rescued and dragged back to dry land. Maria, on the other hand, was less fortunate. She slipped beneath the waves and drowned, and her body washed ashore hours later, leaving her community of adoring followers both stunned and heartbroken. The young woman's stepfather, El Flaco, had been part of her life since she was very young and raised her as his own. Even after divorcing Maria's mother, he remained very much a father figure. Following Maria's death, he expressed deep heartbreak and thanked the public for their support, while asking for privacy during his time of mourning.
9. Irvin Hernandez Flores. In what San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins described as an extremely horrific premeditated double murder, 23-year-old Irvin Hernandez Flores allegedly opened fire on his father and stepmother in 2022. To make matters even worse, he live-streamed his crimes for his social media followers. He was accused of entering the home of 47-year-old Jose Hernandez and 41-year-old Yesenia Soto and brutally gunning them down in front of their 11-year-old daughter. The killer appeared happy to watch the couple as they suffered from gunshot wounds in a pool of their own blood. Unfortunately, the victims died from their injuries despite the life-saving efforts of emergency responders. In the meantime, police took the suspect into custody on suspicion of murder, burglary, and child endangerment. Hernandez Flores, a former Marine, was accused of breaking into the home. He reportedly told investigators that he didn't remember much about the shootings. He admitted to local station KTVU that he was armed when he went over to his parents' house, and he was also angry at his father and had been drinking heavily. However, he insisted that he never meant to hurt anyone. Hernandez Flores claimed that a relative had recently accused his father of disturbing abuse, but police declined to confirm a motive when questioned by the press. The suspect blamed the incident on alcohol and also said that when he entered his parents' bedroom, his father woke up and charged at him in the dark. This apparently caused him to go into a panic, and he pulled the trigger on his gun. In his own words, Hernandez Flores said, "Once I emptied the clip, I turned on the lights and then I seen him on the floor." Afterwards, his father supposedly said, "You did good, son." The suspect claimed that he then ended his father's suffering, and he confirmed in an interview with the reporter that he intentionally shot the man again. He said that Soto, his stepmother, was essentially collateral damage, stating, "I didn't have any intentions to deal with her." Hernandez admitted to shooting around 20 shots, despite the fact that he claimed that he didn't remember much about the crime. He also recalled with suspicious clarity how his half-sister was shocked and stunned by the crime he'd committed, and how she needed help calling 911. At the time of the murders, he was applying to become a member of the San Francisco Police Department. However, it's safe to assume that he never got the job. 9. Tangl. A 30-year-old Tibetan vlogger named Amuchu, known to her fans as Lamu, was in the middle of streaming a live video for her followers in 2020 when her ex-husband Tangl appeared and brutally murdered her. He covered the popular influencer with gasoline and set her on fire, leaving 90% of her body with burns. Unfortunately, Lamu died in the hospital 2 weeks later. The mother of 2 had divorced Tangl 3 months earlier after experiencing a terrible marriage with a history of violence. She had apparently reported her husband's abuse to the police before the tragedy, but was allegedly told that it was a family matter and received no help from the law. Lamu tried to continue on with her life as normal and gained a sizable following of hundreds of thousands of fans who watched her videos about life in China's remote and mountainous Aba prefecture. The lack of help she received from the police isn't exactly surprising, considering how China only criminalized domestic violence in 2016. Since then, the issue has slowly become a priority among law enforcement throughout the country, especially in rural areas. Millions of social users demanded justice for Lamu on social media, but most of these outcries were censored by China's notoriously overbearing government. However, the court ended up taking Lamu's murder quite seriously, describing the crime as extremely cruel and saying that it called for severe punishment. Tangl was eventually sentenced to death for the murder and was executed in 2022. 7. Raji Black. In 2021, social media users frantically contacted Baltimore police to report a terrifying video they saw on Facebook. 44-year-old Raji Black went live on Facebook and confessed to murdering his ex-girlfriend Tara Labang. He explained that he was entangled in child custody battles with both Labang and his ex-wife Wendy Black, leading him to become depressed and hopeless. Raji blamed Wendy for his problems and said that he was going to kill her. He then cautioned his viewers not to play with people's emotions while he approached her front door and fired multiple bullets at her before turning the gun on himself. The former couple's 2 children were in Wendy's SUV nearby when the murder took place. By the time police reached the scene, it was too late to save anyone's life. Records showed that Raji and Wendy's custody battle had been going on for 3 years. Wendy repeatedly tried to obtain an order of protection against her ex, telling the judge that she feared what he was capable of. However, she was denied each time. A recent girlfriend who wasn't targeted in the murders told local station WJZ that Raji was depressed when they dated and that he hadn't gotten help for it. She found herself emotionally supporting both him and herself and ended the relationship when it became too much for her to handle. His downward spiral continued from there, leading him to seek a permanent solution to his problems. 6. Earl Lee Johnson Jr. 35-year-old Earl Lee Johnson Jr. was reaching the tail end of a days-long drug binge with a female companion in 2022 when he was overcome by an urge to murder the woman. In what Baton Rouge police described as a very gruesome, very evil act, Johnson tied the victim Janice David to the steering wheel of a car with jumper cables. He then proceeded to choke, beat, and stab her for more than 15 minutes while he was streaming on Facebook Live. Following the murder, Johnson tried to set the vehicle on fire and abandon it with David's lifeless body inside. Law enforcement was unaware that the murder was broadcasted on social media when they discovered David's remains that night. And by the time the state police notified the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office of the video the next day, Johnson was already in custody for a suspected vehicle theft. As a result, he was charged with first-degree murder in connection with David's death, and he remains behind bars pending the outcome of his case. Johnson allegedly admitted to the murder, but gave no motive for the crime. 5. Jonathan Robinson. In one of the highest-profile murder cases to come out of Louisiana in recent years, 27-year-old Renita Williams was brutally gunned down during a Facebook live stream inside her home in the city of Shreveport. She was broadcasting the video when her ex-boyfriend, 36-year-old Jonathan Robinson, kicked in the front door and forced her to apologize to him and to his new girlfriend in front of her viewers. However, it's unclear what he was demanding the apology for. Throughout the disturbing live stream, Robinson can be heard repeatedly calling Williams the B-word and asking her if she wants to be famous. Williams quietly responded no, with Robinson standing over her. She pleaded with him to stop as he grabbed a rifle and fired 6 rounds into her. The young mother of 3 dropped her phone, but the live stream continued. At the very end, it showed Robinson looming over her, and he then said, "Game over." Following the murder, Robinson shot at 8 police officers during an 80-minute standoff before they finally took him into custody. One of the bullets struck a member of law enforcement in the wrist, but he survived the ordeal. Williams was rushed to the hospital, but she later died from her injuries. Her family told the press that she dated him on and off for years, but she ended things for good about 2 years before the shooting took place. Prior to their final breakup, Robinson was charged with domestic violence. He ended up spending roughly a decade behind bars on various charges, including robbery and aggravated battery for his crimes. But at least one previous allegation, including a charge for possession of crack cocaine, was mysteriously dropped without explanation. Robinson apparently never moved on from his failed relationship with Williams, which led to him being charged with first-degree murder and possession of a firearm. In the end, he pleaded guilty in order to avoid the death penalty and received a life sentence. Apparently, he apologized to the victim's mother, Anita Williams, but by then he'd already sent her several letters from jail. Surprisingly, she forgave her daughter's killer, and as Robinson was being escorted from the courtroom, he also apologized to the police officer he'd injured in the shootout. 4. Jana Pedis Clow. In 2022, a 31-year-old mother from New Orleans named Jana Pedis Clow caused unspeakable harm to her 4-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son during a heated custody battle with their father. Jermaine Roberts had recently filed for full custody of the kids based on claims that Pedis Clow was mentally unstable and was failing to provide them with a healthy environment. While he didn't seek to revoke her rights entirely, Roberts wanted to reduce her visitations with the children to weekends. Instead of getting the help she needed in order to fight the battle out in court, Pedis Clow stabbed her son and daughter. She then posted a short video on social media confessing to the needless tragedy, with blood dripping down her chest. After attempting to kill her children, she called Roberts repeatedly and showed him the aftermath of the crime while threatening to kill him next. Roberts called the police and rushed over to Pedis Clow's home, but when she refused to let him in, he smashed a window and forced his way inside. He rushed the injured kids to the hospital where they underwent emergency surgery. Sadly, the little girl died from her injuries. The former couple's little boy was critically injured but survived the ordeal. For the crime she had committed, authorities charged Pedis Clow with murder as well as attempted murder. During a court-ordered evaluation, a psychiatrist determined that she was hallucinating and deemed her incompetent to stand trial. Pedis Clow had a history of bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, and lost custody of her oldest child back in 2013 over mental health concerns. According to the most recent update, she's being held at a mental health facility where she'll hopefully be restored to competency so her court proceedings can resume. 3. Steve Stevens. Robert Godwin Sr. was walking home from Easter dinner in Cleveland's Glenville neighborhood in 2017 when a man approached him and asked him to say a woman's name. Moments later, the man said, "She's the reason why this is about to happen to you," and fatally shot the 74-year-old grandfather. He fled the scene and uploaded cell phone footage of the murder to Facebook later that day. Police identified the shooter as 37-year-old Steve Stevens, a vocational specialist who appeared to live a normal life until that day. In addition to the video, he made numerous disturbing Facebook posts after the murder, including one claiming he'd killed 13 people. Stevens and Godwin didn't know each other, indicating that the victim was randomly targeted. There was also no evidence that Stevens killed anyone besides Godwin. By the time the video was reported to police, the suspect was long gone from the area, sparking a national manhunt. 2 days later, a McDonald's employee in Erie, Pennsylvania, recognized Stevens in the restaurant's drive-thru. The worker told him there was a delay in preparing his food in order to try keeping him there while the manager dialed 911. Stevens became suspicious and sped off, but it didn't take long for police to catch up to him and disable his vehicle by ramming into it using what's known as a pit maneuver. Desperate to avoid facing the consequences for his actions, he took his own life before he could be taken into custody. Godwin's children were devastated by the murder, but their father had raised them not to hate people, and they wanted to honor his values. In a tearful interview with local reporters, they said they forgave Stevens for the crimes he had committed. 2. Laros Abala. One day in 2016, an ex-convict barged into the home of 2 married police officers in France and stabbed them both to death in front of their 3-year-old son. He then started a live stream on Facebook while holding the little boy hostage and encouraged other Islamic extremists to carry out similar acts. The Islamic State terrorist group known as ISIS later took credit for the crime, and witnesses told police they overheard 25-year-old Laros Abala yelling Allahu Akbar as he carried out the deadly attacks. After failing to negotiate with Abala, officers stormed the home and killed him in a shootout. They rescued the little boy, who was in shock from the horror he'd seen that day. However, the child was miraculously uninjured. Abala used Facebook Live to spread his hateful message and encourage violent crime, which sparked questions over the role social media plays in furthering radicalist agendas and encouraging brutality. 1. Douglas Golson. 55-year-old Prentice Robinson was well known and liked among law enforcement in and around Wingate, North Carolina for outing drug dealers. However, he naturally made enemies, and in early 2018 he was shot to death while live streaming on Facebook. At the time, Robinson was talking about how he'd gone to his local police department to file a complaint against a family member for allegedly stealing his cell phone. He just left his home when a man approached him and they began to argue. Shots were suddenly fired during the confrontation, and the video ended as Robinson's camera fell to the ground. The suspected shooter, 65-year-old Douglas Golson, turned himself into the police the following morning. He was subsequently charged with first-degree murder for the crime. As it turned out, Golson was the person that Robinson was talking about and accusing in his Facebook Live video when he was gunned down. The case went viral, but Golson's sentencing is still unclear.
If you had an opportunity to be a high-earning influencer at the cost of having some of your past dirt exposed, would you do it, or would you choose to maintain your privacy? Let us know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.